Is he live?
Yeah, we
Oh,
live.
it was Lotus. Shalakia. But Shalom, Israel. Shalom, it's your brothers from the Hopeful Elect coming at you with another Soul Food Sunday, man. We want to give all praises, glory, and honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Really want to give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, man. I'm joined by the brothers Azrael, Obadiah, and brother Denal, man. And yeah, we're the brothers from the Hopeful Elect. So we normally get on live and do these lessons every Sunday. Sometimes we go into a little bit more in depth and detailed topics. Sometimes we get on here, we do video reactions. Today will be more of a conversational video reaction type of day. Nothing too deep to be brought forward. So before we get into, the lesson, right, we always got to play the blowing of the shofar. So that's what we're going to do, man. Let me share my screen.
Hey, we gotta start every Soul Food Sunday. We gotta make it a thing, man, to where we play that one song and all of us just be on the screen doing this. Soul Food Sunday.
That's folly.
Hey man. Hey man. Hey, y'all ignore that, brother. All right.
We gotta start changing our names, man.
Con, that was the blowing of the shofar. The brother talking about we got to start changing our names. Look, I'll say this, man. When we do these lessons, I always want to say, it's never about just a specific people group, or it's never just about telling y'all what to do and that, we can't do no wrong. Anytime we get on live, man, and I always say this, especially myself, when I'm on the street corners bringing the word out, a lot of times when we're reading scriptures to people, I reflect on them too, because they can help me out further in life as well. So anything that we talk about in today's lesson is not directed at any particular person, group. It's actually directed towards those who, are open to listening to a perspective on how to handle certain things in a relationship, both male and female. So let's get into the video. No time to waste. Let's get into the video. Let me share my screen again.
Is your life that terrible that you need to be in a car? Life like that difficult? Why don't you?
Wait, let me start it over. Because that one. Okay. Let me share a screen one more time.
Car.
Dang, you want to let me start it over? Okay. Let me do this again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit out of these other videos that I played, and I'm going to
You try to just refreshing the link?
Nah, I mean, I'm just trying to start it from the beginning, and it doesn't give me that opportunity.
I know. I'm saying if you refresh the URL thing, it'll start over.
It will?
Yeah,
How you do that?
Like go to the bar. And you click on it.
But it don't got no bar on this page that I'm looking at.
Oh, it's not on the it's not on the tab or a website?
Nah, I sent it to my email and it was a link. So let me tell you this. Instead of just clicking the link, let me just put it inside of a tab and then paste and go to it. Okay, cool. Bet. Shout out to the brother Denal, man. Okay, cool. So now
might want to zoom in a little bit.
Really?
Well, let me start it over.
Really? 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 Seriously? Seriously? Why are you sleeping in the car?
Oh,
Why are you sleeping in the car?
I need some rest
So why wouldn't you come inside?
because I can't rest in here.
Is your life that terrible that you need to be in the car? Life like that difficult? Why don't you come inside? For an hour you've been out here? You've been out here for an hour?
It looks like it. I just need to rest.
Do you want me to bring you something?
Peace and quiet.
Come inside, baby.
No.
Come on.
No. Just close the door, please. Just close the door.
Well, I'm gonna come and sit next to you.
No.
Did you just lock the door?
So what you just seen was a video of a man. Well, I didn't even say this before I played the video, but fair use, man. We don't own the rights to this content. It was posted by the original lady who recorded it, and then it was reshared by the Viral Plug. So this is their page. But we didn't, make this video. So we don't own the rights to it. We're just using this for educational purposes. Fair use. But I'll say this. Look, so what we just seen was a video, Shalom to the brothers, Iron Hunter Zion, Shalom. But what you just seen was a video of a woman that was dealing with her man taking extra time after work, sitting in the car, gathering his thoughts, right? So the title of this lesson is titled, "What Did I Do?" Because throughout the video, she said something that, that indicated that she felt like whatever, it was something that she did, you know what I'm saying? I guess to cause him to feel the need to sleep in the car for an hour after work or wherever he was coming from. And I'm gonna pause it when we get to that point. I'm gonna play it one more time. Wait.
Really?
I'm not sharing my screen. Am I sharing my screen? Oh yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, cool.
Really? Really? Seriously? Seriously? Why are you sleeping in the car?
Oh,
Why are you sleeping in the car?
I need some rest
So why wouldn't you come inside?
because I can't rest in here.
Is your life that terrible?
Right there. Is your life that terrible? Once she asks that question, that goes and shows that she's trying to say, what is wrong? What did I do? Is your life really that bad to where you can't come in the house, right? Now, the reason that's important is because, again, the lesson is titled, "What Did I Do?" Sometimes as spouses, man, in married couples, even in relationships where people may be, getting to the point of being married, right? Sometimes you get into that phase, or you may get into moments where you may need to escape for a moment and go find peace within the comfort of being around yourself and yourself alone. Those moments of isolation is what I'm speaking of. So everybody probably does it, my wife is on here. She'll tell you that when I get home from work some days, man, I used to sit in the car for about an hour, and it wasn't due to I couldn't rest in the house. It was more so due to just, trying to decompress, to switch roles from being an employee to now going to being a father and a husband. And sometimes some days are just moment authenticity, right? However that word is pronounced, right? Just being authentic. Some days it's harder to take off one hat and put on the next than it is on other days. Some days I can get off work and I can get up and I can go straight in the house and start being that father and husband, that I need to be for my family. Some days, man, at the long day, you pull one of these numbers, man. You just sit in the driveway and you just, God, dog. And before I know it, boy, I'm just been sitting out there for about 30, 45 minutes. And my wife literally does the same thing. She comes outside and she knocks on the window. And she'll be like, "What are you doing out here? Why are you been out here so long? Come inside. These kids are crazy. I need your help. Come inside." And this is why we doing this reaction video, because there's a couple of things that we can address and take away from this video, both male and female perspective, man. Again, remember, it's some days it's going to be harder to switch those roles, right? So the reason we reading this is because, well, the reason we're going over this is because I just want to offer a perspective on how maybe we can learn how to do a better job of switching those roles, right? But before we get into that, let's get into a couple of scriptures to just support the topic, right? So this first precept we're going to read, this first scripture we're going to read is the book of Sirach, chapter 36. And let's read let's start at verse 22 and we're going to read to 24. Matter of fact, Salakia. Yeah, 22, and we're going to read to 25. Wait, the order is, who's that though? We can do top to bottom, same thing. Start with Brother Azrael.
Verse 22, the beauty of a woman cheereth the countenance, and a man loveth nothing better. If there be kindness, meekness, and comfort in her tongue, then is not her husband like other men. He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest.
Verse 25.
Salakia. Where no hedge is, there is possession is there the possession is spoiled, and he that hath no wife will wander up and down mourning.
Now, the reason I wanted to start here is to emphasize really what was said right here in verse 24. He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, a what? And a pillar of rest, right? A pillar of rest. And when you get married, man, we got to remember the covenant of marriage, right? Let's go to the book of Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2 real quick, because we always want to reiterate, why the Lord gave us women in the first place, right? Let's read Genesis chapter 2, starting at verse number 18, and we're going to read through 24. Brother Obadiah.
It says, excuse me. And the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. And he slept and took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh.
Right. So again, man, the whole reason that our women were created, right, was to be a helpmeet and a pillar of rest unto the men, right, to make a man's life easier. Now, again, like I said at the beginning, there are some things that are said that I don't want people to take out of context and feel offended by. So we do lessons all the time speaking on the importance of women, and we do lessons all the time talking about men, right, and the role of how men need to step up and be better leaders. And this is what I'll say based on this video. This is my first initial reaction, man. There may be something going on within their marriage that's causing him to feel like either one, he has to sleep in the car because that's the only place he can find rest, or two, he just doesn't want to communicate. Well, it could be that, and either he's not trying to communicate it, or he has communicated with his wife or his girlfriend, whoever that is in the video. He has communicated with her, and maybe the situation hasn't gotten better, right? For lack of better words. So what I want to say is, to the brothers who may be in situations like this, where you and your spouse may be having issues and you just feel like, well, you don't want to go inside the house. It's starting to become to a point where, you're sleeping separate, you don't want to really, you're not really eager and happy to see your partner. The first thing I always recommend, man, is prayer and fasting, right? Prayer and fasting, right? And there's a reason why. Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 7. No, wait, is that Matthew? Not Matthew, Mark. 7. I think it's Mark 7. No, Mark 9. Salakia. Mark 9. Let me go to Mark 9. Nah. Yeah, I'm right. Mark 9. Mark 9. Let's read this Mark 9 and let's start at verse let's start at verse I want to go up and get to get the context of what's being brought forward. But really I just want to stay on the stage, not read too much. So let's go to Mark 9 and let's start at verse number 25 and let's read through 29. Mark 9, 25 to 29.
Mark 9 and 25. When Jesus saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, Thou dumb and deaf spirit, I charge thee, come out of him, and enter no more into him. And the spirit cried and rent him sore, and came out of him, and he was as one dead, insomuch that many said, He is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he was come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, Why could not we cast him out? And he said unto them, This kind can come forth by nothing but by prayer and fasting.
So a lot of times in marriages and in relationships, man, I shared a video on my Instagram a few days ago, and it was a pastor speaking, and he was like, a lot of times when maybe you're on the brink of a breakthrough or you're on the brink of a blessing, whatever trial and situation you're going through being over with, that's when Satan kind of, and cranks up the intensity of whatever situation, right? And a lot of times when you pray for peace, the Lord will probably send spirits in there to cause confusion, right? But that's not because the Lord is against you all the time. Sometimes you got to take a step back and realize that the Lord does this because if you're praying for something, you got to work to obtain it. It's not just going to be like the spirit just going to hop on you and it's there, But if you want to learn how to master the spirit of patience, the Lord is going to send you situations, put you in positions that are going to test your patience. And what you're going to have to learn how to do is remember what you prayed for in those moments. Because if you learn how to remember what you prayed for, it'll help you be a better communicator. It'll help you see the situation through, right? So in situations where things may get a little hellacious within the household, you always got to remember, one, the covenant of marriage, right? What we read in Genesis 2, the foundations. What the Most High had joined together, let no man put asunder, right? You got to remember that. And the second thing is you got to also learn that, hey, after I've meditated on the covenant of marriage, I got to learn how to fast and pray these demons away. Why? Because again, Satan's whole goal is to come and steal, kill, and destroy. And there's a lot of things in this life that tries to kill our spirit, kill our faith. They try to steal our joy, steal our happiness, steal our, I guess you could say, peace of mind. Right. And it really is set up to destroy marriages, destroy family. We know that on a national sense. Let me go to a precept on a national sense in the physical. Right. Psalms 83. I always read this because in a physical sense, this is how the spirit works. Right. Let's read this, Brother Azrael, Psalms 83. And you can read verses 2 through 5. Matter of fact, 2 through 4. 2 through 4.
Starting at verse 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thine hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
Right. So in the physical sense, we actually had nations of people that were trying to cut the children of Israel off from being a nation, right? That's literally a prophecy of, let me go to the book of Deuteronomy 32. I think D-E, that's what I spelled, D-U-E. D, yeah, I spelled it right. Or is it D-E-U?
It's the D-E.
Yeah, I think I'm just having a little spell check today. That's cool. Players mess up. Right. But let's read this Deuteronomy chapter 32, and let's read in let's read verses 25 to 27.
Con,
Matter of fact, Salakia, 25 through 29.
con. Verse 25. The sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suddenly also with the man of gray hairs. I said I will scatter them into corners. I will make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, I said, were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, lest
Strangely.
they say, unless they should say, our hand is high, and the Lord the Lord have not done all this. Like it, I know. He said, for they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end.
Right. So pretty much, man, the Lord told us, like, if we don't keep his commandments, man, we're going to be pretty much put in captivity, right? If we don't do what he tells us to do, if we don't keep the oath of our covenant, he's going to cause these things to come upon us. And one of those things was, he said he will scatter us into corners, and he was going to make the remembrance of us to cease from among men. So when you go back and you read Psalms 83, and you see that there were nations that were coming together with one consent, that were trying to destroy the Israelites in a physical sense from being a nation, you can see that prophecy come to pass. And you can see that when the Lord speaks, it doesn't return unto him void. Saying all that to say the same thing happens in our lives, Satan, because God's people didn't uphold their end of the bargain, right? There's a lot of unrighteousness moving forth in the earth because the God's people chose to follow other nations. And these other nations that had these wicked ways and these pagan customs, guess what? Those gods and those customs became supreme in the earth. And there's a lot of confusion now that people are profiting off of. And therefore, because they're making a profit off of it, it makes it hard for God's word to stand true. Because again, there's a lot of people in the world that don't know the Most High God. So I'm saying in its entirety that we need to start putting the Most High God back at the center of our marriages and our relationships, because that will help us to dig deeper with fasting and prayer, knowing that the Most High is at the center of it all. If you pray for a peaceful household, you got to expect that the Lord is going to send some storms to try to help you learn how to create peace in the midst of chaos, right? Fasting and prayer is one way that you can change this conversation that was or this video right here. Fasting and prayer is one way that you can change this situation into not being a situation that results in divorce or separation, right? It can get better. But now, to the original point that was made, projection, right? The sister right here is asking pretty much without saying it directly, what did I do to you to make you feel this way? Because she said, is your life that terrible? So she's pretty much feeling some type of way that he feels like, I got to sleep in the car to be able to sleep. I can't go in the house and be with my wife or be with my girl, right? Because I don't know if they're married officially, but if I'm gonna just assume they're married. So assuming that they're married, I can't go in the house and get resting in the house with my wife. And it's offensive to women. Women find it kind of maybe angers them sometimes when you out in the car and you resting and they in the house, and there could be anything going on in the house, whether you have children or not. But if I know you're home and you're not in here with me, like, what are you doing? So projection. Now let's watch how he handled it.
That you need to be in the car? Life like that difficult? Why don't you come inside? For an hour you've been out here? You've been out here for an hour?
It looks like it. Let's see to us.
Do you want me to bring you something?
Peace and quiet.
Come inside, baby.
Now look. So she said, do you want me to bring you something? He said, peace and quiet. Now let me attack this two ways. One, this is the first thing I'll say in response to that. So when it comes to dealing with situations where, you know, two are not seeing eye to eye, the best thing to always do as man and wife is have a conversation about where you are in your relationship. If things are getting kind of out of order, we all got to kind of learn how to watch what we say and not try to offend at the slightest bit when we're angry. Because again, there's a lot of things that people say that are offensive in the moments where you're angry, right? Let me read Ephesians 5, and we're going to go to Psalms 37, right? Ephesians 5. We're going to take it back to elementary Bible school, vacation Bible school. That's what we're taking it back to. Salakia. I was wrong. Galatians 5, right? Galatians 5. And this is where we're going to go to. Galatians 5. Let's start at verse number 22, right? Galatians 5, 22 and 23.
Galatians 5, starting at verse 22, it says, "But the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, and faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law."
There is no law against these characteristics about who you are when nobody's watching, or who you are when you're angry, or who you are when someone is provoking you, right? Either way it goes, there's no law against exemplifying these characteristics. The problem is that, again, we live in a society that's very reactionary. We live in a reactionary society nowadays. So a man says, hey, I'm just out here. I just need to get some rest, right? She takes it and, you know, hey, why are you like, is your life bad? Am I making your life bad? Almost kind of like provoking him in a sense. Now, there's two sides to every coin. So let me get to the other side before you flip out, pun intended, right? But there's no wrongdoings. There's nothing wrong with exemplifying these spirits. Temperance is the main one I want to speak to. But in order to have temperance, it got to go with long suffer. You got to long suffer some of these things and keep and maintain that spirit of temperance, right? You got to be temperate in all things, right? You got to understand that is the only way you'll be, I guess you could say, a temperate person is if you have the ability to long suffer. So I'm saying all that because whatever the situation is that's causing him to feel like he has to be out there, right? As men, sometimes we try to take the road less traveled when it comes to our wives. That's just being real. You know, I know what fuses my wife. So sometimes I just try not to say nothing and pretty much just leave it at that. And that may get on her nerves, but it's also vice versa because my wife knows what fuses me. So sometimes she'll say, she won't say something and then it'll get on my nerves, right? And that's why I'm saying it's not a tit for tat kind of thing when it comes to learning how to love one another, right? There's no law against exemplifying these characteristics. So in the spirit of I guess you could say with the fruits of the spirit, let me rephrase what I was trying to say because it got kind of clouded in my head. But what I'm trying to say is when we're dealing with situations like this, we have to exemplify the fruits of the spirit. If you see that your partner, he's just trying to rest, right? And he tells you, I just need to rest. This is where you have to just take the road less traveled. You have to, you know, have this spirit of long suffering and be temperate and just say, okay, I'll talk to you when you come inside. I'll see you when you come inside, right? Now, vice versa, fellas, if you are somebody who maybe is not having this conversation with your wife about how she makes you feel and how you feel like with her, you not finding like no real rest, no real peace, you need to talk to your partner. You really do. Be a man, put on your big guy pants and have a conversation. Say, hey, things have just been a little bit, you know, rough lately, right? Take accountability for anything that you may have done. Always take accountability, and both parties have to work on correcting their actions. But again, in moments like that where things could get rather intense, instead of dismissing herself, she tried to say, well, I'm going to come sit in the car with you. And he was like, no, I don't want you to do that. You know, I just want to be alone. And probably could have offended her even more. So we just got to kind of know when to bite the bullet and exemplify these fruits, right? Should have just took the road less travel, say, okay, I'm a long suffer this time. I'm gonna go back inside and I'm gonna just wait till we come inside. Then we can talk about why he may be feeling this way, you know. But fellas, you can also do the same thing. Go inside the house, talk to this person about why you feel the way you feel, and then move forward from the situation. But all of it is going to come by y'all communicating and by prayer and fasting, right? Through much prayer and fasting, there's going to be certain things that are going to be changed for the better, but only through much prayer and fasting. Where was I at with that video? Oh, no, I clicked on the scripture. Sorry.
No.
Come on.
No. Just close the door, please. Just close the door.
Well, I'm gonna come and sit next to you.
No.
Did you just lock the door?
They playing the Boys in the Hood music in the background.
Right, got the saxophones playing, man. But again, that's literally because she's doing everything in the situation to get answers, right? She wants answers. She want to know why you feeling like this. She don't want to go back inside the house because it's not because she's scared for your safety. She's doing this because she feels like you're blaming her for feeling this way, and she wants to know why. So now I'm a just take over the space that you've created for yourself. I'm gonna invite myself into the space that you've created for yourself because I want to know why you feel this way. And it is not wrong for her wanting to know, right? It's not wrong for her wanting to sit with him. It's not wrong for her wanting him to come in the house. What's wrong is knowing when and when not to do that, right? Knowing when and when not to insert yourself and when to overwhelm somebody with your presence, right? We just got to know when to pull the plug and say, okay, not right now, maybe later on, right? But again, that goes back to the same thing with men. We know our wives were created to be our pillars of rest. And if you can't rest in the comfort of the house, in the comfort of your home with your wife, I'm not saying leave her. That would never come out my mouth. What I'm saying is communicate, fast, pray, do the little things that you can do as a man to maybe change the situation of your relationship for the better, right? Because men are not perfect. Even though, yes, women were created to be our pillars of rest, there are things that we do as men that, hey, sometimes it makes women upset and it makes them feel some type of way. And we got to acknowledge when we do those things, right? This could have stemmed from something he maybe said to her a long time ago, and it caused her to act out of order, right? And now he feels like ever since then, it's just been this constant. I'm not assuming what went on. I'm just using examples, right? So I'm not in their house to assume or know exactly and speak in absolutes. I'm just using examples. This could have stemmed from him saying something or him doing something that rubbed her the wrong way. And ever since that time, that period, she's been acting out of order because maybe he didn't come back and apologize for it. Maybe she's tried to talk about it and he, you know, he's been kind of blowing it off. It ain't no big deal. It is what it is. I'm a man. I could do that. You know, you got to kind of change the perspective as a man of how to handle when you offend your woman, right? And I'm not saying he did that. I'm just speaking on if that was a situation. The same thing with her. She could have did something that offended him, and he could be like, man, I don't got time. I didn't try to talk about it or this, that, and the third. Whoop-de-whoop. I'm just going to sit in the car. Every opportunity is an opportunity to change the situation for the better. You just got to exemplify the fruits of the spirit in that moment. You had something to say, oh?
Y'all gonna say, man, like people got to realize too, like everything ain't meant to be recorded. You know what I'm saying? Like if you
Right.
really, why you recording? Like why you recording yourself getting into it with him, and then
Right.
he sleep, you hit him, like you hit him on his chest, like you like, bro, you see him sleep and you hit him on the chest, but it's like it's everything. People don't need to know your business in your relationship. You know, so that shouldn't even been recorded for real. That should have been talked about, you know, in their household instead of not everybody knowing, you know, what he got going on, what she got going on.
Right, man. You know, it's crazy, man. He don't want her to come in the car with her, man, because we all know how that conversation is gonna go. he just wants some peace and quiet. If you let her in the car, she's gonna be quiet for probably about maybe 30 seconds. Then she's gonna sit up and she's gonna start talking. I just think it's funny how you just need peace and quiet from me. You know what I'm saying? And it's like exactly why I didn't want you in the car in the first place.
Yeah,
And also too, man, I feel like so the dynamics of this is kind of, it could be a lot of things. We don't know the specific situation, right? And you know, I know for some people that work, you may work 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour away from home, right? You may work in a city where there's a lot of traffic, and you might be fighting sleep while you driving. So when you get home, a lot of times, you know, you might, you know, be like, dang, I made it. It's the middle of the day, but you're like, dang, I made it, because you don't work your shift and you know you fought traffic or the drive. But I'm saying, like, too, if you feel tired, bro, how about you sleep in a different parking lot before you come home? Because that probably would have saved you from, you know, her coming outside and seeing. But it probably, we don't know.
she got your location.
Yeah, we don't know the situation to where he was sleeping outside of his house, car or window open, car unlocked. So he probably was at that point to where he just really didn't care that if his wife saw him outside sleeping. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's a lot of things that we could say that could have made the situation go better for him or for her. But at the
Not
end of
only
the day,
that,
you know,
not only that, man, you know, sometimes I, you know, sympathizing with women a little bit, you might really be concerned for your husband outside. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's really going on? Like, are you okay? Like, you know, you might really have a concern that he's sleeping outside in his car. He's trying to, you know, decompress and whatnot. But at the same time, man, you gotta understand how to listen to your husband. I know women always say we gotta listen to them and what they need. Sometimes you gotta take that same advice. And if he's telling you just need a second to regroup and quiet, give him that second, man. You know what I'm saying? So he can bounce back the proper way instead of perpetuating his stress. And now he got, you know, and now you done bugged him so much. He getting out of the car, slamming the car door, breathing all heavy, man. What you want, man? Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes you just gotta listen, man, to what he's asking of you, and that can be the best help ever that you can give to him.
Right, man. You know, really, in the grand scheme of things, it all boils down to working together, right? Again, when we read Genesis 2, we didn't read that just to read scripture and kill time. We read that because that's the covenant of marriage, man. You know, you made vows to, you know, and it's whoever got married under the, I guess you could say, the Babylonian custom of marriage, right? Saying the vows to have and to hold in sickness or health, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, till death do us part, stuff like that, right? There's a covenant that you have to uphold, and it's just about, you know, working together to continue walking in that covenant of agreement, right? Again, what the Most High had put together, don't let a man put asunder, because at the end of the day, there is really no joy in unruly behavior, right? Let me read this precept. Dang, where I was just at, I just lost my spot. Nope, here I am. Let me share this tab, right? Let's read this. So this is Sirach. We're going to read 25 and 1, then we're going to jump to 26, and then we're going to jump back to 25, right? Let's read Sirach 25 and 1, though.
The book of Sirach, chapter 25 and 1. And 3 things I was beautified and stood up beautiful both before God and men, the unity of brethren, the love of neighbors, and a man and a wife that agreed together.
Right. Nothing is more beautiful than a man and a wife that agree together in the eyes of the Lord, right? Being on one accord. And sometimes you just got to know when and when not to pick a battle with your partner, right? And that kind of goes to being on one accord. You know, if you feel like, if you know your role as a wife and you know your job is to make your husband's life a little easier, right? And it's not just your job to make his life easier. Everybody's job at the end of the day is to serve the Lord. But the reason it's a little different from men to women is because the Most High commanded women to serve, to be servants to the man, not in a sense of let him beat on you and hit you with a rod and stuff like that, and smite you and degrade you and spit on you. Like, we're not talking about abomination. And that's where a lot of women's mind go to when they think of submission, when they think of being a servant unto your husband. Their mind goes into what we seen during slavery and how a lot of Negro women were treated during slavery by slave masters. And there was a lot of men during the time of slavery who learned wicked ways from the slave owners and slave masters and all the slavers, right? And they started treating their women a little wickedly, and they carried it on for generation for generation. So there's a lot of confusion about what it really means to submit to a man. And we're not talking about submitting to a man of unrighteousness, right? This is what let me bring this up, right? Let's read this in Sirach 37 and 12.
Sirach chapter 37 and verse 12. Be ye continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord. Mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry.
Right. A godly man, right? That's the type of man you should be submitting to. A godly man. You'll know if your man is godly by his fruits. You'll know a man by his fruits, right? There's no way the other way to put it, you know, no pun intended, because we're talking about, you know, being somebody that possesses, you know, the characteristics of having fruits of the spirit. We're talking about working together to ensure that this marriage stands on the covenant that was made at the altar before the Lord, or wherever you made this covenant of agreement at, right? We want to stand on those things. So when it comes to women being submissive, we're not saying sit up here and be somebody's doormat ragdoll, right? And that's not what it is. And we that's why we do lessons talking about the importance of women, talking about, you know, how to treat women, talking about, hey, brothers, if you want a woman, you got to do this, that, and the third. There's a lot of things that I've learned since I've been married, and I got married at a younger age, according to the world. So there's a lot of things that I learned as a man that since I've been married that I could have done better from the beginning, from the beginning of even meeting my wife, right? There's a lot of things in our relationship that I could have said differently and done better. And that's all a part of holding yourself accountable as a man, to know how to communicate with your wife. Because not only does a man and a wife agreeing together stand beautiful in the eyes of the Lord, let's go somewhere else, right? Back to where I was earlier. Let me see. Let's read Ephesians chapter 5, right? And let's start at verse number 21, and we're going to read through we're going to read through 25. And then we're going to jump down and read verse 28.
It's on
This is
me.
Ephesians 5. Count, it's on you. No,
Ephesians 5, starting at verse, you said 22?
21.
21. Submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. Wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands as unto the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it.
Right. Love your wives as you love the church, as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. Why? Because verse 28 says, so ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. So the reason that we want to uphold this covenant is because it all goes back to loving yourself. The law literally commands us to love our neighbors, right? And if the law commands us to love our neighbors, even Christ said, love thy neighbor as thyself, then you got to love your wife just like you love you. You know, you got to invest just as much time, money, and put just as much effort into fixing your wife as you do to fixing yourself. Put as much effort into being a better communicator with your wife as you put into being a better communicator with everybody else, right? There's things that as men, we have to learn how to do better. I don't think in that moment where he was sitting in the car when she said, can I bring you anything? He said, peace and quiet. I don't personally think that was the moment to say that, you know? And I understand where he's coming from. Like, you know, I just want some peace and quiet. But, you know, again, she's already feeling offended because she feels like it's her fault, or, you're blaming her, like, and you're trying to insinuate that your life is bad by being out there and not wanting to go inside with her. So if she's already feeling that way, I think the next step should have just been, no, ma'am. I mean, not, you don't have to say ma'am, but you could have just said, no, I don't need nothing right now. I just, just want to rest. Could have just doubled down and said that, right? And that's why I say, it goes back to the fruits of the spirit, because sometimes you just got to pick your words wisely, right? Let me share this real quick. Dang, did I leave out of it? Dang, I didn't mean to do that, right? Proverbs. Go ahead, King.
I say, no, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And sometimes I say ma'am to my wife, she is older, so I got to respect my elders, bro. If you a young brother like me and you married older, hey, sometimes, you get those mountain lions, you gotta respect them a little bit, because they will get a little fierce on you, bro. So let's read this, Proverbs 16 and verse number 32.
Proverbs 16 and 32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh the city.
Right. If you rule your spirit, you better than somebody that takes a city, man. Self-control, that goes back to having that temperance, man. That goes back to long suffering, right? Those characteristics are what makes you a great man. And if you could rule your spirit, even in the midst of chaos, it'll work out better for you in the long run, in life in general, right? Not just in situations with marriage and women, but also in situations with jobs, with other brothers that may try to provoke you to anger just as much as maybe the women that you love might try to on occasion. But all of it is the same spirit. The same spirit rises up in your wife that does in, one of your coworkers. The spirit of let me provoke. Let me provoke this man. Let me provoke this man. And again, like we said earlier, that's what Satan comes to do, provoke us. But we got to be the people that know how to rule our spirits and not be affected by what happens, right? And nothing could have went on in their relationship. He could have just had a long day, right? I'm not, like I said, I'm not insinuating and speaking in absolutes about their love life, what it looks like in their household. But what I am saying is that if that is the example that we have to use, it leads people to insinuate the worst. So you can always remember that at every situation, in every moment, like we read, and I think it was 1 Timothy, that precept is be instant in season and out of season, right? We got to learn how to be ready at all times to glorify the name of the Lord, and we do that more in action than we do in word, right? You could say, Lord, glory to your name. That don't mean nothing if you go smoke somebody for no reason 10 seconds later, right? It's all about how you live your life. That's what the Lord glories in the most, right? Because going back to Sirach, and we only got a couple more precepts and we out of here, but going back to Sirach, the Lord is beautified in a man and a wife that agrees together. And you show that you love your wife by your actions. Why do we affirm that? Because literally what it says right here is the example that we use. Hold on, I'm reading over it. Right here, verse 29. That's what I was looking for. Verse 29. It says, "For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourisheth and cherisheth it, even as the Lord the church," right? The example is literally physical of showing that how, hey, you never beat your own flesh. So if you don't beat your own flesh, then you wouldn't do your wife the same way. And your wife is supposed to be one flesh with you, according to the commandment given in Genesis chapter 2. So therefore, man, we just got to learn how to do a good job of ruling our spirit, right? Controlling ourselves, self-preservation, and working together with our partners, working together with our wives and our husbands, right? Because both parties could learn how to do a better job of taking care and submitting ourselves one to another. That's why the first verse we wanted to read is Ephesians 5:21, which says, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of the Lord, or in the fear of God, the most high God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? Not the gods of the earth. Go ahead.
Salakia, man, the Bible, this is for the men, right? One, the Bible speaks to men, right? We know that the Bible's patriarchal. So a lot of the things that's being said are being said to men, right? But there are some things said to women as well, especially in the letters. But the Bible tells us not to be bitter towards our women. Why does it say that? Right? Because somebody could say that the man sleeping in the car was exhibiting a bitter spirit towards his woman by sleeping in the car, right? Or he could be trying to try to prevent himself from being in a bitter spirit by sleeping before he go inside. You never know. But the Bible tells us don't be bitter. Why does it tell men not to be bitter? Because women are the weaker vessel. So what does that mean? That they're not as strong as a man to control their temple. They can't all the time control their emotions, right? They can't all the time control what comes out of their mouth, right? They're the weaker vessel in the aspect of spiritually, they're kind of weaker in that aspect. They let their flesh get the best of them sometimes. But it's up to men to be able to not be bitter and understand that they're the weaker vessel and honor them by how do you honor them? You honor them by not taking it to heart. You honor them by not becoming bitter. You honor it by not becoming slow to anger, right? Because a lot of men, what will happen is they don't honor it and they end up slamming their girl into the bed or slamming her into the wall or cussing her out or calling her out her name. And then, what she said in the heat of the moment, she really don't feel. But now that you dishonored her by abusing her, now you forever changed that relationship, right? And so that's why you got to be able to be slow to anger, slow to wrath, and you got to bridle your mouth, because if you want to be able to bridle the church, man, you got to be able to control yourself first. A man that can't control himself is like a city without walls. You're susceptible to any form of attack, right? And you're gonna fall by that, right? So, Khan,
man. I'm gonna read it because you just said it, but this is Colossians 3:19, and it says, well, let me start at verse 18. Let me start at verse 17, right? Matter of fact, let me start at verse 16. All right, Colossians 3:16, right? It says, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Christ. Well, let me read this written. In the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as it is fit in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and be not bitter against them, right? We shouldn't be bitter against them. And anything that we do, we need to do, for the Lord, right? We need to go hard for the Lord, because literally says that in verse 23. And I read this verse a lot too. Whatever we do, do it heartily as unto the Lord and not unto men. When choosing not to turn, when you're choosing to, like the brother Azrael just brought out, turn away and not say anything, even if your wife says something, you literally are doing it for the Lord. That's what you should think of it like. I'm doing this for the Lord, because at the end of the day, the Lord wouldn't have you return wrath upon, your wife, because it's just like turning wrath upon yourself. If you make a mistake, you wouldn't just go take yourself out the earth just because you made a mistake. You wouldn't go punching on yourself. You wouldn't go calling yourself the stupidest. And if you do that stuff, those are bad habits that you need to eliminate. People who cut on themselves, people who, attempt to commit suicide, people who do those things are people that you really need help. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I'm saying that because it's the truth. Because your life is worth more than just the current moment of emotion that you're experiencing or that somebody else may be experiencing. We've had a lot of brothers and women fall because somebody was angry in that moment. And it resulted in somebody dying because somebody was angry in that moment. So we have to learn how to rule our spirits, right? Even as spouses, towards one another, right? Because you go back real quick. We'll read this in Sirach real quick. Well, I wanted to read this, but this isn't saying what I say. This isn't saying what I thought it was saying. There is one that says it. Let me find it real quick.
Yeah, man. I speak as a man while he find it. Not only your wife, but all women, You know what I'm saying? We live in a time now where men will go back and forth with women on social media through comments, go back and forth with women that are, you know, not your wife, but maybe in your family, whether it's a sister, whether it's your mother, whatever. As men, we got to do better jobs of understanding that the woman in general is a weaker vessel, right? They are needed, and they do come with a lot of skill that we cannot live without. But being the weaker vessel, you know, sometimes they're susceptible to certain things in their flesh that will make you bitter. And it's a bad look when you are triggered. That's why you got to be slow to anger, like that precept that we read. You can't be, you know, letting them get the best of you on social media and in person. And it just doesn't look very manly for you to be arguing with a woman, right? That's not what men do, right? And I'm not saying to ignore them. Just say, you know, they say something that you don't like, just tell them, you know, I hear you, and let it be done with. You know what I'm saying? Be slow to anger. And the key to being slow to anger is watching what you say, because the more rebuttals and the more you go back and forth, the more angry you're gonna get. So try to eliminate that, right? By restraining your lips. That's what a wise man does, right?
But yeah, because you know, in First Esdras, man, many men run out of their wits from women, right? So we just need to be mindful of the things that we say and do in response to what a woman may say or do. And trust me, I've had to learn that, you know what I'm saying, a lot here lately, you know, regardless of who it is, your wife, your cousin, your friend, your sister, some family member, right? Regardless of who it is, in all ages too, you know, you just kind of gotta, in response to certain things, it's best as a man to keep your words to a few, you know, and not respond. But let's read this in Sirach 26, right? Let's read this. It's on you, Saucy O.
Sirach 26 and 22. And the harlot shall be accounted as spittle, but a married woman is a tower against death to her husband.
Right, man. You know, and I'm reading this because, again, it goes back to the foundation, man. There's nothing better than being married. And this is maybe a good video for those who are looking to get married and maybe having problems, or, you know, if you were probably going to get married, but then you started having problems and you called the wedding off, right? You know, get back to that thing, because as a woman, there's nothing more than having the power to protect a man from dying, right? It's literally written, like Christ said, greater love hath no man than a man that lays down his life for his friend, right? And I'm not saying you have to die for your man to live as a woman. What I'm saying is, though, it gives that kind of vibe, you know. Your husband is willing to lay down his life for you, and little do you know that the Lord put power within you to protect your husband from a lot of things. And it's not just in the physical sense, it could be spiritual too. Just like what's his name said, the basketball player, DeJounte Murray, he lived a little wild life growing up, I guess, you know, to an extent. But he said now he don't even like going to clubs. He don't drink. He don't smoke. He just worked too hard to jeopardize anything. And I'm relating that to what we just read because, you know, in a spiritual sense, you know, a man could literally be out and about, but be like, nah, you know, hey, I got to get home to my wife. Nah, okay, yeah, I'll be down, but nah, you know, I gotta go home to my wife. There's literally a song, a blues song like that. They're pretty much saying, can't stay too long, you know, I gotta keep moving. My girl, she wait, you know, and I know that the song itself isn't really talking about what we talking about, but nonetheless, it's still the principle that applies, man. You know, women, you protect your man from certain situations in a spiritual sense unawarely. Some days, it's been plenty of times I done went home just because I'm like, yeah, I need to go home. Time to go home to my wife. Or I'll be at work and I'll be thinking, man, I'm just ready to go home, man. Go home to my wife. If it was a lot of younger people were have the mindset of being married, if a lot of younger people had the mindset of, you know, being a godly man or a virtuous woman, there would be a lot less crimes that happen on weekends. There would be a lot less crime that happens in midnight hours because you'll be home way before then, just due to the fact that, shoot, I need to get home to my partner. I need to get home to my wife. You know, that's just in the spiritual sense. But closing, all in all, to say that, hey, when you encounter situations like this, the best thing, let me share the tab one more again. The best thing to do is to rule your spirit at all times. If something is going wrong, trust in the Lord with all your heart that it can work out for the better. You know, if you're a brother that's dealing with the struggle of transitioning from working to going into a house with a woman that's as a dragon, right? Because we know the precept in Sirach, I want to say that's Sirach 25 and 16, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just read that one. Let me just read this real quick. Sirach 25 and 16, and it says, I had rather dwell with a lion and a dragon than to keep a house with a wicked woman, right? So if you're a brother that maybe be in the house with a wicked woman and you feel as if it's hard for me to be in there because I have no peace, guess what? At the end of the day, you just got to continue to fast and pray that things will change and work for the better. If you're a woman that's dealing with a man who's maybe not the most godliest man, but you've already made a covenant with him, then keep praying and fasting for your man. But everybody has to exemplify the fruits. Everybody has to do a good job of communicating, because what that lady did in that video was project her insecurities and her confusion on him. And as men, we cannot leave our spouses feeling that way. You can't really leave your spouse feeling like, is this my fault? You got to give answer at some point. So you just got to, as women, either wait for the answer, don't do the women thing that a lot of women do, is if you ask your husband to do something and he say, yeah, I'll get to it. And then 20 minutes later, he coming to do it. And here you didn't already done it because you just couldn't wait for him. And now you mad at him because he didn't do it when you asked him to do it, right? That's not the spirit that you should want to operate in as a woman. Wait for the answer. But men, be willing and ready at all times to give an answer, and be the man that could be of minimal words when you're angry, right? To eliminate a lot of confusion. But do anybody got anything else to add?
The last thing I'll say is, man, the title is What Did I Do? Right? Sometimes we got to think, what did the other person do? Conversation I had with my wife one time was, we got to be able to take ourselves out of our own shoes and put our mind in the shoes of somebody else. And I was talking about each other. So that means, like, when I'm at work, I need to be thinking about what possibly could my wife be doing right now, right? Or when I'm gone, she should be thinking, oh, what possibly is my husband doing right now? Because a lot of times we get caught up in ourselves to where we don't think about the other person, right? We don't think. It's easy to just assume that somebody's not doing something. I know a lot of men, it's assumed that when we take care of kids, we don't take care of our kids, right? And we may be doing flashcards with them. And we keep all that stuff to ourselves because we don't think it's nothing to brag about. But because we don't put ourselves in each other's shoes, sometimes the women, they may think that we're not doing nothing with them, right? But we know deep down inside. And also vice versa, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times the women be feeling like the men feel like they don't do nothing all day but sleep, right? We know that you got to take yourself out your own shoes and be like, yeah, I know right now it's around 12 o'clock. She probably feeding them lunch, or she probably doing this, or she probably doing that. They probably at the store, right? And when you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, right, it keeps you more level-headed when you're dealing with them, because okay, they're working just like I'm working. And that's how you treat somebody, as you would treat yourself, right? A lot of times people don't get treated how they would treat themselves because you can't ever step outside of yourself. You only treat yourself how you would treat yourself. No, you got to treat other people the way that you want to be treated as well. But good lesson.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, hey, it's just about working together, man. That's all I can say on that. But we say shalom. I told the brothers before we got on here, we was going to be off by 1:15 at the latest. So maybe I just need to stop assuming and just let the spirit be the spirit. But, with that, I want to say shalom again. All praise, glory, and honor be to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Most High willing you were edified. Hey, We'll be on here again Tuesday with the brother Denal spearheading a lesson. Whatever topic he goes into, Most High willing, you edified as well. But we the brothers from the Hopeful Elect signing off, saying deuces.